and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 334, and today's date is April 7th, 2014, and the title of this episode is Dollar is Dropped as Countries and Central Banks Declared Their Holdings in Yuan. And we're going to get into that a little bit later in this report, but let's get started with the economic collapse news. And what we're seeing right now is that 90% of all consumer credit in the past year was just from student loans and car loans, not from credit cards. People are completely tapped out at this time. Only 2% was actually from credit card purchases. What does this tell you? This tells you the American people are completely tapped out. They're not going out and buying things, and they just don't have the money. They don't have the jobs, and this is what this is telling me right now. Now, Zillow has done a study, and they're saying 1 in 3 homes are unaffordable at this time. More than half the homes currently on the market in 7 major American metros are currently unaffordable for local residents, and 1/3 of homes for sale are unaffordable by historic standards. As affordability worsens, we're already beginning to see more of the kinds of worrisome trends we saw en masse during the years leading up to the housing crash. These include greater reliance on non-traditional home financing, which we discussed before, which is adjustable rate mortgages, giving loans to subprime borrowers, and we're seeing people give absolutely no down payments or very tiny down payments of like $1,000. And we are seeing this completely happen, and we're following the same exact path that we followed during 2006, 2007, leading up to 2008. And here we are right now. And what they're saying is more than half of the homes currently listed for sale in Miami, Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, Denver, San Jose, Portland are all unaffordable by historic standards. They were all pumped up to get people in, and what's going to happen, as we know, the entire real estate market is going to completely implode on itself. And right now we're seeing mortgage originations plunge to their lowest levels on record. New mortgage originations fell over 23% month over month and a stunning 47% year to date, according to Black Knight. And I mean, we understand this. We understand that the mortgage corporations, mortgage companies have gone either out of business or they laid off tens of thousands of people. Why would they do this if we were in a housing boom, if we're rebounding, if we're seeing the boomerang effect of those people who had foreclosures, short sales, lost their jobs, have no credit, they're all coming back into the market? Wouldn't these companies be expanding because there are more people who want mortgages? Because we have to realize those people who've lost their homes due to foreclosures or short sales, lost their jobs, have no credit, they're not paying in cash. So they're going to go and get a mortgage. They're accepting subprime borrowers. They're accepting people with ARMs. Not just ARMs. Adjustable rate mortgages. They're accepting those people who are putting a small down deposit onto the house. So we can see that this has nothing to do with the American people. This housing market was pumped up with cash from the Federal Reserve, which was given to the hedge funds and investment companies. They pumped up the market. They thought they were going to have all these Americans rushing to buy these homes because the market was being pumped up. And what are they seeing? They're seeing absolutely nothing. They're seeing people going, I can't afford this right now, or these people are non-existent because everyone has credit, foreclosures, short sales, or lost a job, and they're just not interested in putting their money into a house at this time where they really just can't do it. And this is what we're seeing right now. And if we really look at this, 65% year-over-year drop. New mortgage originations are at their lowest since their records began. The average loan in foreclosure is now 2.6 years past due versus 0.7 years in 2008. It has just gotten worse and worse. It is not getting better. whatsoever. And all these people out there telling you that real estate's going to rebound, things are looking great. Well, from every single indicator that I've been talking about all the way up to this point, there is no way that real estate is all of a sudden going to make a comeback, because we understand, I mean, let's just take a look at this. Tens of thousands of people being laid off in the mortgage companies. We have the Fed still pumping in billions of dollars to get those toxic real estate loans off the books of the banks. We have so many foreclosures, we have so many short sales, and the American people are completely tapped out. They have no credit, they can't find good paying jobs, and they just don't have money at this time. And their main worry is food, rent, and just finding a job. So this housing market that they're talking about coming back is non-existent, and we're reaching the point where it's all coming down. Zillow is even recognizing that there is a major problem, and we're following the same path here. And of course, we all know and we understand what is coming, and that means the real estate market will implode on itself, the stock market will implode on itself, and all of a sudden everyone's going to be looking around going, what just happened? But we understand what is happening. Now, before all of this happens, what the United States, the government, the central bankers, the elite, the globalists, whatever you like to call them, they want your weapons. They want you completely disarmed. And every time I see these reports come out, it convinces me 110% that this is what they're trying to do. Now, right now, we understand there was a mass shooting at Fort Hood, and he was on medication, and supposedly had some mental problems. He was a veteran. And right now, CNN obtained the Facebook post of Fort Hood's most recent accused shooter, Ivan Lopez, and is reporting that he criticized accused Sandy Hook shooter Adam Lanza prior to his own supposed shooting rampage and suicide. This is what he wrote. Now, just let me know if this sounds correct, that this person would actually write something like this. Lopez wrote that Lanza pretends to be a victim of mental illness followed by addiction to violent video games, and that the shooter sought international attention and a minute of fame as a villain. He also added, "It is stupid to me that anyone can have easy access to a powerful weapon without being mentally evaluated. This makes the government indirect accomplice. These bastards have perfected their way of attacking, studying previous massacres to gain publicity and their minute of fame as a villain. But thanks to Hollywood and the sensational profiling by the media, they give more power to those intelligent cowards." Now, this statement really doesn't sound like it's coming from him. It sounds like this is government propaganda to convince us that the mentally ill should not have a weapon. Those veterans who are mentally ill should not have weapons, and they are continually pushing their agenda. Now, the mainstream media is pushing their agenda along with the government, and what they're saying right now, and CNN's Pamela Brown says she spoke with an anonymous source who indicates the disturbed shooter was stockpiling large amounts of ammunition. Army specialist Ivan Lopez was creating a stockpile of ammunition. Sources say when Lopez bought his .45 caliber semi-automatic handgun at the store, Guns Galore in Killeen, Texas, on March 1st, he also purchased what one source calls a large amount of ammo. Now, of course, what does that really mean, a large amount of ammo? What, 4 boxes, 3 boxes? That's a lot of ammo? Now, we have to remember, those people are pushing the gun agenda who want to disarm the American people. They are out there, and they are pushing these stories, making people believe that this is what's actually going on. And what we're actually really seeing, and we have to look at Chicago for this. Remember, Chicago tried to ban all weapons there. They didn't have the conceal and carry, but now, since the law was passed that people can carry and conceal a weapon, Chicago police are reporting that the murder rate for the first quarter of the year is the lowest it's been in more than 50 years, which gun advocates are attributing to a concealed carry law passed in Illinois last year. The first 3 months of 2014 have been the fewest number of homicides since 1958, 6 fewer than this time in 2013, and 55 fewer this time in 2012. The facts are every time guns have been allowed, concealed carry has been allowed, the crime rate has gone down. And this is coming from Representative Louis Gohmert, a Texas Republican. And we've seen this over and over again. When the criminals have the guns and the everyday law-abiding citizens do not have the guns, they realize they can use these guns against them, nothing will stop them, and crimes with weapons goes up. If they realize that people actually have weapons, crime goes down. And there are many towns in the United States where everyone is allowed to carry a weapon, keep a weapon, and crime is very, very low. In Switzerland, everyone by law has a weapon. They keep it. They train with it. Crime, murder, very, very low. So, what does the Attorney General, Eric Holder, want to do? Well, he's seen what's happening in Chicago. Crime's going down. Gun violence is going down because people are carrying weapons. Well, the only thing we can do right now is maybe we should take this to the next level for gun control. And he is requesting $2 million for gun safety technology. Attorney General Eric Holder said on Friday that gun tracking bracelets are something the Justice Department wants to explore as part of its gun control efforts. And we have to remember, their entire agenda is to make it very, very difficult to own a gun or purchase ammunition. Eventually what they like to do is completely remove all weapons from every single person. And this is why they keep these bills pending in the Senate. The UN Arms Treaty, still pending there. Harry Reid went to the floor to see if he had enough votes to get these passed. He didn't with the last mass shooting. So expect another one that's going to be even worse. They're going to continually try this until they can get that horrific mass shooting where they can push these gun bills through. And what he went on to say is that by making them either through fingerprint identification, the gun talks to a bracelet or something that you might wear, how guns can be used only by a person who is lawfully in possession of the weapon. And this is what they want to do. They want to put a bracelet on you. You scan your finger on the weapon. It says, okay, you are the owner of the weapon, you can use it. But let me ask you, if you're not wearing your bracelet and someone's breaking into your house, I mean, do you really have the time to go around looking for your bracelet, scanning your finger, you know? And also, this type of technology, I hate to say it, can be easily attacked, and you can remove all these settings. It's almost like a cell phone where they can go in and they can go in and break into the phone and do whatever you want with it. The same thing's going to happen with this technology. So this is all baloney. This will only keep everyday American citizens with these and accounted for. Crime and all that, they're just going to disable them, remove them, and they won't even know where they are. And this is a waste of time. The only reason they're pushing this is to remove the weapons from the everyday person. Now, I saw this report, and this is very, very disturbing. And what I'm seeing here is that the rights are being taken away by the Supreme Court, as, of course, they think they are. But right now, a case being heard in front of the Supreme Court called U.S. v. Castleman. The case was a landmark win for the gun control left wing, but what no one realized is that our Constitution no longer affords us rights. And what they're saying is no longer rights that are inviolate, which is untouchable. The case was decided on March 28th. The U.S. Supreme Court unanimously ruled that the Bill of Rights is no longer made up of declaratory and restrictive clauses. They are judicially now perceived as privileges. A privilege can be revoked for the slightest of legislative causes, but a right is forever inviolate. We, the people, no longer have that right. So what they're saying, they went out and they said, listen, these rights are no longer rights, they are privileges, and the government is giving you these privileges, and we can remove them anytime we want. And again, no, this is completely wrong. We are born with these rights. The contract, we the people, with all the amendments and all the rights that we see in the Constitution, is what we gave the government to follow. This is the contract from us to them. If they do not follow it, they are removed from office. The Supreme Court doesn't rule on this contract, does not rule on the Constitution. It is for the people to decide what rights we have in this contract. So guess what? This is completely null and void, and I can't even imagine what Supreme Court justice, what the NSA, the Obama administration, or any other government type of agency had on these Supreme Court justices to rule in this way, but they always seem to have some type of information that they were using to spy on these people to make them rule in this way, and we see it time after time, and they continually do it. Okay, now out in Turkey, we understand that the president out there, Erdogan, they had elections. They were setting up a false flag event in Syria where they were trying to sneak military assets and military officers across the border. And once they were in the border, they were going to fire missiles from Syria into Turkey and say, oh my God, look, Syria's attacking us. We have to go in there. And we need NATO help, and we need U.S. help. And this is how they would get U.S. and NATO forces into Syria to fight against Assad and remove him. And during this time, there was a YouTube video that was leaked and put on YouTube, but I guess Erdogan during the elections didn't want the people to hear this, and he banned YouTube and Twitter, but the court ruled that banning Twitter is unconstitutional, but they still have YouTube banned, so no one in Turkey can hear this video at this time. And Google right now is trying to fight this to try to get YouTube back in Turkey, and we'll have to see how this goes at this time. And again, I'm sure the President Erdogan doesn't want this video to surface and the people to see it, because I'm sure they'll be like, hey, you're out of here now. And we don't really hear much from the United States saying, you know, the people have the right to hear YouTube and see videos, and you know, it's part of the democratic policy that they should be allowed to do all of this and have their freedoms to see all this type of information. They're staying pretty quiet about this. Why? Because Turkey is already in their back pocket. They are a puppet regime. They already belong to NATO, so they really don't have to say that much, and they really don't care about the people that much. And this is happening all over the globe, and this is the way the United States, the central bankers, do this. They always side with the people when they want to remove the government in that country, and they don't side with the people when they already have the puppet government in place, and they really don't care about the people at this point. Now, in North Korea, we understand that the United States central bankers have been provoking North Korea, and North Korea has been firing missiles into the ocean. They've been, talking like, they're going to get back at the United States. And of course, the central bankers of the United States, they actually want this. They want them to do something. They want to provoke North Korea into do something. And right now, because North Korea was showing signs of aggression and they were threatening, the U.S. will send 2 more missile defense system destroyers to Japan by 2017. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel said, adding that decision was related to North Korea's recent missile launches that, that went into the ocean. The U.S. already has 5 missile defense-capable ships in the area. This move to significantly bolster our Navy presence in another action that strengthens our alliance and increases deterrence against North Korea aggression, Hagel said. And of course, this whole thing is a pivot to Asia. They're putting all military assets out there. They're bringing more ships out there. Right now, 60% of the fleet is in the Pacific. They have bases surrounding China. They're doing the same thing now around Russia. Why? Because they understand they need to cover up this entire collapse in this entire system with some type of an event that will eventually lead into World War III. Now, we see many other nations around Ukraine, cities, saying they want to join Russia right now. And Transnistria is seeking to join Russia after winning independence. Moldova's Transnistria region seeks to join Russia, and we're seeing this all over the place. Donetsk, that The people raided, the pro-Russian people raided the buildings there, the government buildings, and they are looking to become independent from Ukraine, from Kiev, and they would like to also join Russia at this time. And what we're seeing is cities, towns, military officers all moving towards Russia, and they haven't even fired a shot. Now, of course, the United States is out there, and they're saying, whoa, 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 stop destabilizing Ukraine at this time. The United States has called on Russia's President Vladimir Putin to stop destabilizing Ukraine, threatening Moscow with further sanctions. Carney said Washington is ready to impose further sanctions targeting the Russian economy if the situation continues to escalate. Well, that is pure propaganda, because let me just tell you, if they actually targeted the economy of Russia, it would have a detrimental effect across Europe and into the United States. It would decimate Europe and the United States, because Europe is dependent on Russia. Actually, Germany has so many companies that are in Russia doing business. The United States has major corporations in Russia doing business. And Russia right now has a very strong manufacturing. They are creating and making deals with other nations, bypassing the dollar. So this is complete propaganda when they say they're going to put sanctions on Russia. And this is why they didn't do it in the first place. This is why they went ahead and they only did it on certain people and on one bank. This is why they did this, because they were very nervous about doing it on the Russian economy, because they realized the American economy is very fragile, and if they did this, the American economy would come tumbling down, and the people would be sitting here going, wait a minute, you just placed sanctions on them, and the United States economy came tumbling down? It's your fault, and they do not want this to be blamed on them. Now, I'm talking about the central bankers in the U.S. government, and this is why they didn't do it. Now, Ukraine is looking around and saying, you know what, this is getting worse. More and more cities, more and more areas are starting to move over to Russia, and Ukraine is getting pretty much prepared probably to issue a state of emergency in Ukraine because of what is happening. They're losing many of the regions in Ukraine, and pretty soon the central bankers, U.S. government, EU, are going to be just left with Kiev, and that's it. And this is not what they planned on. This is not what they were trying to do, and it is completely backfiring on them. Now, as I reported in my other reports, Russia is creating their own payment system, and right now Russia's major banks begin consultations on national payment system, and they are beginning to do this now, and the VTB president Andrei Kostin said this would mean consolidating the existing settlement system to create such a system within a month or two, using the terminals of all leading Russian banks without crossing the border. This can be done inside the country, and this will cover about 90% of payments our citizens make annually. The second stage for this payment system is to create a national payment system proper, using a new independent settlement center as the basis. But I think we can do it within 6 months or so, and the system will work inside the country too. So they are moving forward. They're a month or two away from having this completed inside the country, about 6 months away having it done for the entire globe. And Gazprom president, CEO, is out there saying that 95% of foreign partners are ready to do business in the euro. The company CEO said it would divert exports to Asian markets should the West intensify sanctions. So they are looking, and they're saying 95% of their customers are ready to do business without using the dollar whatsoever. They will stock up on euros, and he went further on to say that this shows that in principle there is nothing impossible. You can switch from dollar to euro and from euro to rubles. We think Western banks are unlikely to stop cooperating with us, but in any case, we have paved a way to Asian lenders as well, plus there is a domestic market. The U.S. currency is already losing positions. The usage of the dollar as an instrument of punishment may decrease its weight as the reserve currency. Taking into account its huge national debt, in some instant there will be a problem with its refinancing, as dollar assets will become interesting to nobody, the top manager said. So we can see how they pretty much think of the dollar. They think of it as completely withering away and no longer existing. And we can see that it's not just Russia. China is out there, and they have made so many deals across the globe, and other central banks and other countries are saying, you know what? We are going to start taking on yuan. And at least 40 central banks have invested in the yuan, and several others are preparing to do so, putting the mainland currency on the path to reserve status before full convertibility. 23 countries have publicly declared their holdings in yuan in either the onshore or offshore markets, yet the real number of participating central banks could be far more than that. The yuan has effectively already become a de facto reserve currency. Now, we have to remember, as these banks and these countries take on yuan and the ruble to pay for all these commodities and oil and natural gas, they are removing the dollar and adding the yuan and the ruble to their reserves. So the dollar reserve is going down in all of these countries because they really don't need it. And this is really evident in the percentage of countries holding the dollar. I mean, if we look at this, in 2000, 55% of the world's reserves were denominated in US dollars. Today, it has dropped down to 33%. They're saying by the end of this year, countries using the US dollar will drop to 20 to 25% or lower. Why? Because of China and Russia at this point. They are a direct threat to the dollar, and the central bankers know it. They know we're in trouble. They know the dollar is being flushed down the toilet. And they realize the only way to stop this is to have a war. I mean, if you really think about it, they need an event to say that someone attacked the United States to cover up this economic collapse. The American people would say, okay, they attacked us, let's go to war, and the players will always include Russia and China. And this is what they've been trying to do all along. And what we're seeing right now is the 23 central banks known to have yuan holdings. 11 are from Asian markets with close trade links with mainland China, Australia, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Macau, Malaysia, Nepal, Pakistan, Singapore, and Thailand, according to public records from either central banks' own statements or central bankers' interviews with the press. The rest are 5 from Europe: Austria, Belarus, Norway, France, Lithuania, and 7 from South America or Africa: Bolivia, Chile, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, and Tanzania. So you can see what is happening at this time. And there are many other countries that have created bilateral trade deals to completely bypass the dollar. And what does this tell us? The dollar reserve is going down. Down, down, down. Yuan and ruble going up, 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 because we are now in that phase where we are switching which currency is now the reserve currency. And this is going full steam ahead. They are not stopping, and they are pushing this. And the central bankers, the private Western central bankers, absolutely know this. They realize what's going on, and now they are totally backed into a corner. And of course, the Fed is out there. Fed Bullard is saying that the global economy would see little benefit if the world's central bankers coordinated monetary policy. Well, again, this is absolutely ridiculous. They're pretending like this isn't happening because they understand that they're going to have this event which will get them off the hook, and they believe once this is all over, the China and Russia won't be there, and they will be there, and they'll start the whole system over. And we can see how they are playing this. But right now, Russia and China are leading efforts to bypass U.S. as IMF reforms stall on Capitol Hill. Russia and China and other major developing countries, angry about the stalemate on Capitol Hill that has blocked approval of a reform plan that would give them a bigger voting share at the International Monetary Fund. They are pushing to go ahead with the reforms without waiting for the United States. Back in 2010, the United States promised, they made a deal that they would give up a lot of their voting rights, hand it over to the emerging market, emerging countries, developing countries, and now they're holding back and they're not giving in. They want to keep their majority vote because they realize what will happen if they give their votes up. They will completely be in a huge amount of trouble. Actually, the United States, the dollar, would be in a huge amount of trouble, and we would see the dollar lose value, lose value, lose value. And they think if they don't allow this to happen, that they will not lose that value of the dollar as quickly because they need to get that event started. And U.S. and IMF officials insist that the reforms, including changes in voting shares designed to reflect shifts in the global economy and a doubling of the IMF's lending authority, cannot go into effect without approval by Congress, as the U.S. continues to wield veto power over major decisions and activities of the IMF. And Russia and China are trying to push and have this done without the United States and take control. So this is a huge battle, and this is why everyone is talking about the global reset and the devaluation of the dollar, because we can see what is happening all across the globe. The dollar in reserves is continually being removed from countries and central banks. They're stacking up yuan and rubles at this time, and China and Russia are making deals across the globe. Russia is setting up an entire payment system that has nothing to do with the dollar, and in about 6 months they're ready to go online with this system. And as we go through this year, we're going to see many more countries start removing the dollar from the reserves. And what happens when this happens? Those dollars come back to the United States. When those dollars come back to the United States, what happens? We see inflation. The value of the dollar continually drops. So you see milk at $4.25. Now milk is at $6. Now milk is at $9. Now milk is at $15. Now milk is at $20. A gallon of gas is at $3.69 now. All of a sudden, the same thing's going to happen. More dollars coming back here. $3.99, $4, $4.25, $5, $8, $9. This is what we are going to see happen, because as we go throughout 2014, the dollar is going to lose value every single month as more and more countries and central banks remove the dollar from the reserves and bring on the yuan and the ruble. Now, we understand that Iran is supposed to receive the unfrozen oil revenue that was promised from this nuclear deal, and they're actually not receiving this money at this point. Iran has been unable to withdraw much of the oil revenue that it was clear to receive in a nuclear agreement with the Western sanctions imposing nations last November. And of course, the United States is blaming it on Iran, saying that they really haven't given us very specific information of where these funds should be deposited. Now, let me ask you, if you know you're going to receive millions and millions of dollars, are you trying to tell me the country is sitting there saying, we can't figure out which bank we want you to deposit this in? That's absolutely ridiculous. When you're getting paid from a job and you're getting direct deposit, do you have any problems giving them the bank information and setting that up? I hate to say it, that's like the first thing you do, because you want to make sure you get your paycheck. Well, the same thing with Iran. This is the first thing you do. You say, here's the bank account, this is where you send it. So this is actually propaganda. They're not giving the money because these nuclear talks are completely fake. It's an illusion. They're trying to get into the banks of Iran to put their natural resources on the dollar, to prop up the dollar a little bit longer. Now, to push this war agenda with Russia, Iran, Syria, China forward, we understand that the countries are moving military assets, especially the United States and NATO, and right now U.S. is sending F-16s to Romania for exercises. How much you want to bet they're going to leave them there, and they'll leave them there until whenever, just like they did in Syria with Jordan. They sent all their military assets down to Jordan to say it was for an exercise, and this was back in August of 2013, and they just kind of left all the assets there, and they are still there today because they realize they are setting up a strike into Syria. Now, we're seeing right now that the rebels are completely losing the war in Syria, and Hezbollah's leader said Sunday that the Syrian regime is no longer in danger of being toppled by rebels at this time, and we see it. So what is going on here? Well, we understand that Assad has pushed the rebels out. He's taken over his country, and the central bankers in the United States government are not going to let this happen. And what they're doing right now is they are moving, and they are moving very quickly. They tried different false flags. Of course, Israel is out there backing the chemical attack on Syria. Israel backs Syrian opposition accusations of poison attack. They're saying that the Syrian President Assad used chemical weapons in Damascus 2 weeks ago, according to Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Yuan. And of course, we know this is a false flag event, just like Turkey tried to do false flag event. And actually, this is not really getting traction right now. So what is happening? More weapons are coming into the rebels, the paid mercenaries. They've been shipping more weapons, and the first advanced U.S. weapons to be deployed in more than 3 years of a civil war are arriving in Syria to help them. Anti-tank, optical, tracked, wire-guided BGM-71 TOW, which is capable of piercing 50 millimeter thickness of Syrian tank armor and Syrian fortifications at a range of 4 kilometers. And they are continually bringing in more of those high-powered anti-tank weaponry, and they're just continually flowing them in. Now, on the corporate media, you really don't hear, anything about this, but there was an investigative reporter out there, and they were in Syria, and they found out a couple of things here. Confirmed U.S.-run training camp for Syrian rebels in northern Jordan. Rebel recruits go off the grid while in secretive training camp. Rebel fighter, the Americans who taught us wore military uniforms I did not recognize. Camp awash with American food and American dollars. Recruits eat Kentucky Fried Chicken and live in temporary prefabricated housing units. Recruits sent through intense 40-day program, which includes exercise, training in anti-tank missiles and boot camp-style atmosphere with orders given by U.S. military instructors. Upon graduation, U.S.-trained insurgents slip back across Syrian southern border. Experts say there are more camps like this one. So we can see what is happening right here. They are training. They have these camps all around, training all these people, bringing them into Syria, and they are getting ready for the next wave. And they are getting ready for this false flag event, I should say. And in Iraq, what is very interesting is that Al-Qaeda, which is the people of Iraq trying to take back their country, they're moving, and they're moving military operations to Iraq's capital ahead of the elections. And the central bankers of the U.S. government are very worried about these elections, because you have to remember the puppet government is in place right now, and they are looking, and they're going to target different military bases and critical facilities in an attempt to torpedo the elections on April 30th. The armed groups have to plan to target bridges and conduct ambushes day and night, and this is coming from Iraq Army General Mohammed saying that these Iraqi forces, these Al-Qaeda forces, the people of Iraq, are looking to derail these elections, and the central bankers, U.S. government, are very, very worried about this. This is why they sent the Apache helicopters down there. This is why they've been sending soldiers down there. This is why they have the commando forces to hunt out Al-Qaeda right now. And again, this is all because of what is coming. And this report right now says U.S. warns Americans from traveling to Iraq. Now, every time we hear this, we know something major is going to happen. And again, the U.S. Embassy in Iraq has warned U.S. citizens against all but essential travel to Iraq. So they want nobody in Iraq at this time because they are getting ready to do something. And what are they going to do? I believe they're setting something up where they can go in and get into Syria from Iraq. First, push out and control the elections. Once they do that, then move into Syria, either from this position or have troops standing by in this area to move into Syria, have the troops and all the people they've been training in Jordan and all the military assets to move in this area. And we can see that this is all starting to move forward. We can see that this is going to happen. Now, to get all of this to happen, they're going to need to do something. And they've been planning, they've been trying everything they possibly can with other false flags, with the UN war crimes against Assad. They've been trying everything and nothing has been working. Even the latest chemical attack has not worked. People really don't care. It's been done. They're just trying it again. It didn't work. Turkey's false flag didn't work. Now the event is coming home. And we can see all of this turning into something that's going to happen here. The Malaysian flight is still missing. This whole pinging of this black box in the Indian Ocean is completely diverting everyone away from this. They're keeping flight 370 in everyone's in their minds, to keep reminding them, yes, the flight's missing, and all of a sudden, when this next false flag comes, it might include the flight with a payload. It could be a nuclear payload. We understand there's going to be a cyber attack. We understand there's going to be a power outage. And again, from now until July, we have the elections coming up mid year in July with Assad. So now, from now until then, this is when they have the time frame to do this. And this is why they've been setting all this up right now. We can see what they've been doing. Everything's being prepped for what is coming. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.